Welcome to Your Town. I'm Chef Wendy Brodie with Art of Food, and I'm the culinary hospitality host. And my guest today is Chef Stephen Siglin, Edible Ambassador. I love that card. You bill yourself on that card as a personal chef, but you're so much more. And just finding out, been a masseuse for 11 years, you said?
Right.
It's all about the hands, isn't it?
It really is all about the hands, yeah. Yeah.
Well, welcome. And I just recently got to be at the Foragers Festival where you entered a dish in Big Sur, and I know you've done many other things, and catering, and I look forward to hearing you, want you to share all about that. But you had such a creative dish at the Foragers Festival that we wanted one more award so badly. And it was, I'll let you describe it, and we named you the Passionate Chef in our little grouping of judges. You do have such passion, such energy, and you're just a treat to know and a treat to watch your career coming through your hands once again.
Thank you.
Floor is yours. The table is yours.
The Foragers Festival was such a fun project. Matt Glazer, a chef in his own right, called me up and asked if one of his affiliates, Big Surific, could sponsor me, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. It gave me such a tremendous opportunity to communicate and collaborate with a lot of my friends and colleagues and reach out to the foraging community and learn intensively about foraging, what to look for, what to be cautious of, where to be looking, and probably spent about 50 hours out foraging leading up to that competition in that week and a half leading up to, becoming familiarized with. And the intention was to serve a dish that was completely comprised of foraged ingredients or mushrooms, because we were told it was a fungus face-off. I wanted to feature the mushrooms. I was like, cool, we're going to feature mushrooms. So the most stressful part about that was not even knowing what we were going to have or how much of what and by when. And
how many people do they want you to prepare for?
Matt instructed us, well, I suppose the instructions were to prepare for 300 bites.
Okay.
So that we could make sure every guest had the opportunity over the course of the event to taste anybody's dish and no one would run out. And so I think we achieved that. We had maybe 20 servings left by the end of it.
Well, that's very well planned for any kind of event. Good for you. But continue on. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Not at all. We featured the porcinis by drying them and turning them into a powder and replacing some of the all-purpose flour with porcini powder when we were creating our tart crust. And the hydration we used to rehydrate the flour for the crust was a tea, if you will, steeped from 3 different types of boletes that had been dry aged, and it was steeped with thyme and marjoram, so it had a lot of depth to it. The custard itself, or for lack of a better term, the egg and cream, it was blended together with Gruyere and lilaceps, which is a type of agaricus mushroom that's only found here in Monterey Peninsula underneath the Monterey cypress trees, the bigger ones. And we featured fresh candy caps as well within that egg mixture. They were cooked off separately, blended, kind of like food processed so that the texture was right. And then it was topped with a sweet candy cap cream, and served alongside that was a candy cap infused bourbon jello shot that was so nice because it was like refreshing and wasn't too bourbony.
And
was nice.
The shot, well, it was a gelled shot.
Right, a Jell-O shot. But it was in a spoon.
I didn't hear you say that part of it. I was distracted by trying to mentally eat it all over again.
Right.
And then you had on the side that you treated a few of us chefs to is if you were pairing your dish with the wine, you would have chosen the Chalon Chardonnay, was it?
It was a Chenin Blanc.
Chenin Blanc.
Yeah, we went to the cheese shop and we were
Yeah.
talking with Kent, who
Yes.
you know. I watched his
yes.
interview just moments
Oh.
before coming here today. Him and Tim Wood, Chef Tim.
Yes.
And I was like, what am I getting myself into? I better watch. So Kent was awesome. He said, this is, the best Chenin Blancs are coming out of South Africa.
Interesting.
And however, if we wanted to kind of serve the same terroir, let's focus on the Chenin Blanc from, what was it?
Chalon.
Chalon. And so we're like, hey, what the heck?
See, I remembered that. I'm proud of myself because there were so many wines
Yeah.
around that day. But that is a fun festival, and it used to be called, for our listeners that don't know about the Foragers Festival, it's a fundraiser for the Big Sur Health Center. And it used to be called the Chanterelle Festival for many years. And there were two wonderful men that each shepherded that event and had a proprietary feeling for that name. And one of them, I think, trademarked it. And so we needed
licensing.
We either needed to purchase, which was really not in the fundraising
Spirit, yeah.
So they came up with the new
so
name,
funny.
Foragers Festival, which, even though it focused originally on chanterelles, then it became expanded, and we always were aligned with the Fungus Federation, Santa Cruz. They would come down and
Sure,
so
their
forth.
festival was the weekend before.
Yeah, and so now it's even better and more creative with people doing more and more. And I totally agree with you not to get into the politics of everything, but the festival is growing so beautifully, and the quality of dishes that are presented are just, we felt, all A+, they are A's. And then what happened this year is some people went above and beyond the expectations and did 3 or 4 items, and as you say, how do you compete with that?
It's hard.
It
But then I think about the guest experience, and they're thrilled.
They were.
Because all the food and wine events that I've been to, it's more fun when there's more things to taste. That's what you're there to do.
And even the
And so
wines
it's-
are getting judged.
Right.
The beverages, now there has to be a category now for the beers because there are a few more breweries coming on board. So
Yeah,
anyway.
it's cool. I think there is nothing wrong with setting the bar higher. Nobody loses in that situation, particularly the chefs, because it pushes you to produce, to create, to stretch your limitations or what you think they are. And that's what I love about what I'm doing right now, is I know I don't know everything. And I know that a lot of people around here know way more than I do. And as a social learner, as someone who's motivated by fun and by learning, there is no better marriage for me than to learn from other people. And then the opportunity to present food and bring people together, it culminates in just such a fantastic thing for me. I'm just happy as a clam. And I don't know where that expression came from, but
No, we should look.
yeah.
You could Google that. Really, you sort of described kind of that yin-yang experience, because with your masseuseing, that's a very one-on-one, private, almost non-social, because you need to be quiet and very tuned in, I would think, with my experiences of massage therapy, or just having a wonderful meditative experience. And yet food brings the social life and connects all the dots, and it's a wonderful balance. But how did you develop your passion for going into the food?
It goes back a long time ago. Unlike a lot of my colleagues who got started at as early as like 13,
It's never too
14,
late.
15, I had an interest in doing things with my hands. It didn't, and I didn't even know that that's what it was for me until I was like almost 20.
Still very young.
Right. I vividly remember being at certain restaurants with my family growing up. You know, a few stand out. You know, the fanciest restaurant that I went to as a kid was El Fornallo in Orange County. And
Wow.
and you know, that's a great chain that's all over the world.
It is, and we have one here.
We do. And I vividly remember I would leave the table, I would just hang out by the bar, and I would just peer over and watch endlessly. I was endlessly entertained and constantly being called back to the table by my family. Come here, your food's getting cold. Everything, you know. And then I must have been 18. And my parents took our family, my sister and I, Allison, and my dad, Steve, and my mom, Shirley. We all went to a restaurant in South Coast Plaza called Marché Moderne.
That sounds very...
Yeah, very much. It was the best meal I'd had up to that point in my life. And the kitchen was so quiet and organized and tight, and they were producing beautiful food. And I remember the dish that changed my life. It was a hamachi sashimi with a yuzu sphere and the shiso, and it was phenomenally delicious. And I'll never forget that. And that was the moment that I was like, "Whoa, this is really cool! Like, I didn't know you could do that with food." And yeah, that just stands out for me. But really, when I was also around the 18 years old, I was pivoting tremendously. I had a pretty rough transition from 17 to 19. I was in the process of like figuring out who I was, and through that tumultuous journey, I was really into cycling. Cycling like on a bicycle.
That's really good. Wow.
Gave me an outlet for a lot of my energy, and it allowed me to connect with an entirely new group of people. It
That's
saved
impressive.
for lack of a better expression, it put me back on track. And I remember coming home one day after a long ride, and my parents were gone, and there was no food in the fridge, and I was like, shit, I better learn how to cook. I don't know, I got nothing to eat.
I'm hungry
I'm
after
hungry.
lunch.
And so that was like the first wake-up call, if you will. And as I progressed at the age of 19 into massage school, I met a lot of people in the health industry, people who were more hippy-dippy, if you will, more granola, as they say. Mm-hmm. And that exposed me to an entirely new genre of food. You had raw food, vegan food, vegetarian food. And, you know, I started reading about different things, different ways of being, different food philosophies. And, dude, the doors were opened. As someone who is motivated by working with my hands, when I wasn't doing massage therapy, I would work in some type of restaurant situation, first as a server, then as a prep cook. And I remember my first position was as a dishwasher. I went to my friend Rudy, who was the only employed person I knew my age back then. I was 18. I was like, Rudy, you got to hook me up with a job, dude, because you got it down. So he calls one of his clients, Chef Chef Sal, and Chef Sal had a catering company called Saltwater Catering in Irvine, California. He'd been doing it 25, 30 years. The dude was a veteran, obviously. Yeah. And so Sal was kind enough to sit me down and interview me, and he's like, hey, what do you know about food? What's your experience? I was like, I got nothing, really, nothing. He's like, well, I'm going to pay you $10 an hour. You're worth $8, but I'll pay you 10 because I think it'll make you work harder. I was like, all right, cool. I can respect that. That's legitimate. And the job was, if I could keep up on dishes, then he would let me start prepping. But if I couldn't keep up with the dishes, I didn't get to prep.
What an interesting psychological incentive. That was good. That was good. He got what he needed, and then you could get what you wanted. I like that.
And the man must have had arms of steel, because he could stick his hands into a deep sink of scalding water and just like hang out there.
Asbestos finger.
Just hanging out there like nothing. And it was. I did not have the same, let's say, fortitude. I didn't have that. So it took me longer to wash dishes, yeah. But I got really good at it eventually. 11 years later, here I am.
Oh. But as we say, they are the most important people in the restaurant. Nobody to look down upon. That dishwashing is, we all do it.
It is, yeah, without question, fundamental. Moving to Monterey, yeah. I met Chef Carrie Bernardi, who taught me a whole world about food education for kids. I met Chef Matt Millay, who taught me so much about pop-up dinners, about food service in general, about thinking smarter when it comes to preparation. The list goes on forever.
I love that man. Wow.
Chef Tim Wood, the team at Aubergine, and Justin Cogley.
Oh gosh, yes.
The chefs at Luca. All of these human beings are so amazing, because they opened up their doors and their knowledge bank to someone like me, who never went through the codified system of kitchens or culinary school, and they, for whatever reason, they either identified my passion or my genuine, sincere care for the craft, and they thought, okay, cool, you're welcome here, and you're welcome here, and that was it. Period. Like,
there's so many ways to learn, and really, you got an introduction into the real world quickly, where often when you go to school, then you get thrown into real situations, and you're lucky because that apprenticeship program, very successful in Europe and other countries, is fabulous. So, don't ever sell yourself short for not having the classic restaurant training. Your passion, your interest, and you going to these different people and experts, you're getting the best of the best, providing they're willing to share. So I salute you. I am so glad that I've met you in my life. I hope we get to do more fun things rather than being a judge and whatever. But you just are so special and so passionate that I just wish you all the best in your both careers.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Are we wrapping up?
We are.
Okay.